Hello, people. How are you today? I hope you're all well. Thank you for joining me once again. I just want to say real quickly, thank you so much for all those that watched my previous episode and even commented on the video. I get a lot of comments in my, people sending me direct comments, but if you don't mind leaving a comment under the video, that would just stir up the conversation, really give me some of your perspectives and some things to consider in our next, subsequent discussions. But always, for somebody to take time out of their busy schedule to support and to help out and to join the conversation is a big deal, is a huge deal. And so I don't take it for granted. But today, let's talk about this topic. Oh my goodness, this topic is so wild. And I think it's so important to talk about, right? Because it brings things into perspective. Now, this is a Dr. Phil show that he brought in two people, a transgender couple, Addison and Ethan. And I just want us to jump right into the videos. And I mean, the video is pretty lengthy, but I cut certain key clips that we're going to comment on or make a commentary on and stir up a discussion, a much needed discussion that I think needs to happen in our society and our generation. So let's start right now.
I'm Addison.
And I'm Ethan.
We've been together for about
5 years.
And married
for 3 years.
I use they, them pronouns. Being non-binary just means that I just don't identify with the gender I was assigned at birth, and I don't identify exclusively with being a man or woman. I'm something in between, outside of that binary.
My pronouns are he or they. I also identify as a non-binary. To me, being a non-binary means having the sense of freedom to explore my gender in whichever way I want. I don't have to perform or pretend to be someone I'm not. I can be my authentic self.
It's really important for us to share more information with people because people are curious. They want to understand, but sometimes they don't always have the opportunities to do that.
This is a hot topic.
Yes.
That's a good thing, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Why is it a good thing?
So before we go any further, I want to preface this discussion by saying that obviously we cannot discriminate against anyone. It doesn't matter their race, creed, color, politics, whatever it is. We cannot discriminate, and we have to frown against any discriminatory actions or speech or anything that will come out of this discussion, right? But just like the couple that came on Dr. Phil that we're going to listen to the conversation, they basically came out to have a conversation, right, with the broader public, right, that they feel in their opinion that there are some important discussions and important topics to raise up to enlighten, right, the society, enlighten the culture, enlighten the generation. Same as somebody like me, engaging in this conversation, engaging in this topic, and also giving my viewpoint, right? Later on in the discussion, you're going to hear a guest that will come on. His name is Matt Walsh, and he gives his opinion on this whole pronouns issue and, identifying in a certain gender or all of that. So let's go into the next video, the next clip, and then we'll go from there.
Why is it a good thing?
I guess because it creates dialogue and it invites conversation to learn about other people.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people are really confused about gender identity in these times, and it's good for us to have these conversations so people open their minds and relearn and unlearn to what we've been taught.
Right. And Addison, many people think gender pronouns are exclusive to the LGBTQ plus community, but that's a misconception, true?
Yeah. Well, everybody has pronouns. Like, you may use he and him as your pronouns, right? I use they and them as my pronouns. We all may have a certain gender pronoun too, but I think it's important for people to understand that for trans and non-binary people, we often change our pronouns to reflect who we are when we come out and be who we are.
How do you explain the difference between sex and gender?
I consider sex to be our biological makeup. Our chromosomes, our hormones, our genitals is a biological makeup. But our gender is more of an internal sense. So think of it like this. Sex is what's between the legs, and gender is what's between the ears, right? It's how we see ourselves on the inside.
Okay. And that's something somebody can't know. Gender is something somebody can't know just by looking at somebody.
Nope. Yeah, because everyone is going to present and express themselves in a different way. I know it's very confusing, right? Everyone's like, is going on? But
Okay, so yeah, I mean that was a whole lot, right? The fact that and that person looks a certain way does not mean what we see is what they are, right? So the fact that he has beard and he has long hair, we cannot assume what gender he is. And so, and at the end, notice he says, I know, this is all confusing. This is all confusing. And what I'm seeing in this society and I'm seeing in our generation is a lot of scrambling of things that we've known, things that we've learned, things that we grew up in and believed was a man and a woman. Today is being re-scrambled or scrambled in our heads, and we are confused about what is going on. And I think as the conversation progresses, I think there's a point I want to make. There's a lot of things that generations that have come up, grew up and learned or unlearned or relearned, right? As generations came up, okay? As the years went by, there were certain things we had to grow in. There was an era where there was slavery, and then there was an era, then abolishment of slavery, and there was an era where we had to grow out of certain bad practices and also embrace people. There was an era where there was discrimination, and now we are in an era where we have to be accepted and embraced, no matter who the person is, what the person is, what they decide to do with their lives, right? We have to embrace. But I don't want to touch too much on it. I think we'll talk about it some more as we keep going further.
confusing, right? Everyone's like, what is going on? But it's really, about us breaking that assumption that we can tell someone's identity, someone's story, their pronouns, even their name, just based on how they look, right?
And so how does someone ask? How does somebody clarify that? Ethan, what's the best way? What's the most comfortable way?
I think for me, to create a safe space for people to share their pronouns, I will say, hi, my name is Ethan. I use he or they pronouns. What about you?
I think it's really important for us to recognize other people's pronouns because, again, we can't make that assumption. But for so many people who are cisgender, meaning that you do identify with the gender that you were assigned at birth, you're not transgender or not non-binary, I think a lot of people don't even question their pronouns because we already use them and it's already assumed correctly. But for so many trans and non-binary people, that isn't often assumed correctly. So we need to take the time to get to know people.
Okay, so we're going to keep going. So he's going to describe something I think is key in this discussion, in this overall discussion, where he talks about what they feel or what they think about themselves doesn't match the gender they are assigned at birth. And then later on, Matt Walsh, who is a guest, who is going to join the show and then talk from his point of view. Okay, this is interesting. I really want us all to pay attention to this part.
We are assigned a sex at birth, and when we grow up, when there's a mismatch of how we view ourselves and how society views us, then we can choose to, either medically transition or just socially transition or both.
My name is Matt Walsh, and I've written a book called Johnny the Walrus. This book is about identity and imagination. He identifies as a walrus, and his mom's a little silly. She takes it seriously and thinks he really is a walrus. So she went on her phone, and there were people telling her that this isn't pretend. He's really a walrus. And his mother takes him to the doctor to have him surgically transitioned and gets him walrus hormone pills, and then eventually tries to drop him off at a zoo to live with other walruses. Not only topping the Amazon charts, my book has taken the world by storm.
You're saying that there should be no construct of gender, just sex. You're either male or female.
Right.
And someone feeling in a mental, emotional way that they don't identify with the sex that they have been biologically created as and assigned at birth based on their genitalia. If they don't feel that way, that there's no construct that describes that, experiences that.
Well, that's got nothing to do with the reality. So you can feel however you want. I mean, I could sit here and say that I feel like a tomato plant, but that doesn't mean that I'm actually in those things. So your self-perception, you can have whatever self-perception you want, but you can't expect me to take part in that self-perception or to take part in this kind of charade, this theatrical production, you don't get your own pronouns, just like you don't get your own prepositions or your own adjectives. It's like if I were to tell you,
this is so interesting. I think Matt speaking here really brings something to mind. However they view themselves is up to them. It's not against the law. You can view yourself, and Matt Walsh's book is so interesting. All right, you can view yourself as a walrus. You can view yourself as a lion. You can call yourself a lion, right? There's no law against that, right? But what I see this movement doing is to get the masses, to get society to view them the way they view themselves. For society to accept that this is who I see myself as, and so you have to accept me. I mean, this discussion is big, so I have to divide it into two parts, but this is huge. But let's continue the show.
My adjectives are handsome and brilliant, and no matter whatever you're talking about me, you have to describe me as handsome and brilliant because that's how I identify. Makes no sense. You don't get your own pronouns. That's grammar. That's language.
So you think it's a delusion? Someone is self-delusional.
Yeah, I think it's delusion. It could be mental illness. It could be it's a lot of different things. With children, wow. There's also just a basic confusion that all kids have. Like that's why when you hear a parent say, "Oh, my 4-year-old son came to me and said that I'm a girl now, and so that's what I'm gonna raise him as a girl." No, you're a 4-year-old. I have 4 kids. When a 4-year-old boy comes to you and says, "Oh, I'm a girl," here's a good follow-up question. What is a girl? Ask him what he means by that. What do you mean by girl? And when you ask him that, here's what he'll tell you. He will tell you what he really means is that he wants to do some of the things that girls do, like play with the dollhouse, or he likes the color pink. That's fine. Play with the dollhouse, but you're still a boy. And that's a question I would like to throw out to other members of the.
Oh, wow, this is getting testy. I think when I saw this video for the first time, I'm like, whoa, somebody's really hitting nerves. But I mean, Matt makes compelling points here, right? To make things matters worse, and I'll probably cover this in the second episode that I do, the next part 2 of this discussion, that people not being identified correctly with their preferred pronouns can get somebody fired. People get fired from their jobs because they address somebody with the wrong pronouns. I mean, this is getting quite serious. If this is what is going to be happening because I don't see eye to eye with you, or I make a mistake in how I address you or describe what I'm seeing standing in front of me or who I'm seeing standing in front of me, then we are in for a really testy battle. We are in for a really tough time ahead. This is the crust of my problem. It's when children, even in schools, are being made to learn these things, to, like speed up their thought process, to accept and embrace these new societal changes, these new societal redefinitions of life and things that we've known. And they don't leave it, and what I fear is they are not leaving it in the hands of the parents. They are not leaving these really critical discussions, these really important debates in the hands, or even these important realizations or new things that are happening in our society, or cultural shifts, societal changes. They're not leaving it in the hands of the parents. I would want to teach my little girls those things. A couple of days ago, my little girl asked me, how will mommy get another baby? How does mommy make babies? And I had to figure out how I was going to describe that without really breaking the news of sex and how sex happens, right? So there's a gradual process because I'm the best person that knows what my little girl can handle. Okay, right now she's thinking about kissing and when can I kiss and all of that, because obviously she sees her father and mother kiss. But am I ready to break the news of how babies are made, especially the sex part of it? Right? So it's my judgment as a parent to gradually break this news to my child. But now society, through different mediums, whether it's the movies, cartoons, the schools are breaking these things too. And that is what makes me uncomfortable. But let's continue the video.
Actually, because just like the 4-year-old can't answer what is a girl, well, this is one of the problems with this left-wing gender ideology, is that no one who espouses it can even tell you what these words mean. It's like, what is a woman?
Well-
Can you tell me what a woman is?
No, I can't. Because it's not for me to say. Womanhood looks different for everybody.
What do you define a woman as?
An adult human female.
And what does a female mean?
Well,
how
that's
do you define a female?
someone with female reproductive organs.
Okay.
Someone who's, here's the thing: when you're female, it goes right down to your bones, your DNA. So that's why if someone dies,
Okay.
we could dig up their bones 100 years from now. We have no idea what they believed in their head, but we can tell what sex they were because it's ingrained in every fiber of their being.
Interesting. So I'm trying to understand. Your definition is that a woman is someone who is female, you said, right?
Correct.
Gotcha.
Is a biological female.
So what happens if we have maybe someone who is female, identifies as a woman, right? Cisgender woman, right? As you just explained, maybe doesn't have the ability to reproduce. Maybe doesn't have those organs that you're talking about that are reproductive organs.
Why does that matter? I don't get the question. If a woman is not able to reproduce, doesn't make her less of a woman, right? But you see, this is the confusion that I'm getting from this whole discussion and from their side. That, I mean, now we're redefining what a woman is. We're redefining what a female is. Whether we call it woman, female, for me, I go back to the beginning of things. God made man and made woman. God made man and made woman. He made Adam and he made Eve. Okay? He gave Adam a composition that we see today. Okay? He gave Adam that structure that could give seed to a woman who had a womb man, right? Now, the fact that a woman has a womb and cannot give birth and she's barren does not make her less of a woman. Okay, so if we are restructuring and redefining what at the core, like Matt says, at the core of who a man is, who a woman is, you go dig up a skeleton, or you go dig up somebody's grave, you can tell that this person was a man. Through the structure of the bones and everything, this person was a man, this person was a woman. So now you're saying that we can't go by that anymore, but by what the person is thinking, okay? How the person views themselves. So if we're talking about that, then it means we cannot even identify or correctly identify anybody anymore. Because you can look at me, I look like a guy, and then you address me as a guy, and I tell you I'm not a guy. Or a man, I am something else. And I am a wolf. And so this is really interesting conversation. This is a very strange grounds that we are finding ourselves in. I respect whatever or whoever you see yourself as, whatever or whoever you want to consider yourself as or define who you are. That is totally fine, right? But the fact that society is being pushed to the point where you have to see me the way I see myself, or else there's going to be trouble, or else I'm going to feel discriminated against. I'm going to feel disrespected. You cannot call me Mr. When I identify as a woman, you cannot call me this. You cannot do this. It puts us in a very dicey situation. Let's continue.
I've answered the question. You stood up here and said trans women are women.
Yes.
Tell me what you mean. What is a woman?
Womanhood is something that, just as Ethan explained, I cannot define because I am not
But
myself.
you used the word. So what did you mean when you said trans women are women if you don't know what it means?
Right. So here's the thing. So I do not define what a woman is because I do not identify as a woman. Womanhood is something that is an umbrella term. It includes people
That describes what?
who identify as a woman.
Identify as what?
As a woman.
What is that?
was to each their own. Each woman, each man, each person is going to have a different relation with their own gender identity and define it differently.
That doesn't-
And so
I'm not
trans
asking-
women are women too.
I mean, I don't understand why they're clapping. It's so confusing. I'm gonna leave this here. Because I don't want the video to be too long. But practically, and like Matt pretty much summarized what I was saying, that right now, from the point of view that Ethan and I forget the other person's name, are describing and putting out there and explaining to all of us, because they themselves said, I know it's all confusing, but they're trying to help us out, right? Is that womanhood, manhood should be left to every individual to define it the way they see fit. Wow. I mean, wow. So we're going, basically leaving, discarding the definition and what God describes as his own creation, what he sort of built, he made man and woman. Okay, we are scrapping all of that definition to a new age definition of whatever you say a man is a man. Whatever you say a woman is a woman. That is quite an interesting and a wild place that we find ourselves in as a society. I think this discussion is something that we need to have some more. On the next part 2 of this discussion, I think I'm going to go into a second half of it. And this is very important. Things that are happening in the schools and the way these things are being taught in the schools and imposed on our kids is, as a parent, is disturbing to me. Okay, you know, kids are in their formative years. They are very impressionable. They are learning all these different things and trying to put things together. They're trying to understand how life works and the different things that they come across every day. But now we want to introduce another thing in their education. My thing is leave it to their parents to make that determination and how they're going to break the news. Yes, we know society is changing. We know things are becoming normalized and becoming our daily life, right? That we have to embrace as life and respect everyone, love everyone, embrace everyone. But we want to take it at our own pace. So the part 2, we're going to break or diverge, go into the school aspect of things and the kids that are facing some of these really, really societal changes that are occurring all around us. But we will talk about that some more on the next part of this video. Thank you so much for watching. Look, let me hear your thoughts, okay, in the comment section. Look, I want us to have this discussion. I respect everyone's view on this discussion. If it's something I don't understand fully, if it's something I'm ignorant about, that is why we should have this discussion, right? We should be able to dialogue and get to understand all of this different things that are happening around us. So leave your comments in the comment section, like this video, and also subscribe to my channel. Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate you. God bless.